When I think about AI, I think about two key pillars of AI. What are the up and coming things, the trends that are going to be normal day-to-day life that we look at today and go, that's from Mars? Back 5 years ago, if you would have told people where we'd be today, they would have thought we were nuts. Technology can't replace an agency, but technology can enhance an agency. What agents need to start to bring in is this more mindset of empowering their customers to take care of the things that they want to take care of anyway. The more freedom I give them, customers, the more they are loyal to me. And the more value that they believe I'm giving them. And the less likely they are to want to leave me to go back to the old way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Insurance Distribution Podcast. I'm here with Nick. Hey, Nick, how are you? Nice to see you.
I'm doing good, Martin. How you doing, man?
Doing great. You're now head of growth at GloveBox. What does that mean? What is GloveBox? How this became a part of a natural evolution of Better Agency? Please update me there. And I think it's an interesting story to start with.
Yeah, so head of growth, you could just think of me as the marketing leader. Lead growth and marketing here at GloveBox, which is a broker tech, insurtech platform. A little bit about what that is, or I'll tell you first how that came to be. I started back in 2019. I started a CRM for independent insurance agencies on the PNC side called Better Agency. We were an automated CRM. We were acquired by GloveBox. At Better Agency, I was the CMO and founder, and here I'm the head of growth. What GloveBox essentially is, to give you the really quick spiel that is not overly pitchy, we are a self-service platform for independent insurance agents. So independent agents can use GloveBox with their clients, either by way of mobile app or client portal on their website, and allows customers to handle the tier one basic service tasks that a lot of times bog agencies down in time and CSRs. It helps make your CSRs a little more productive because they're not spending time doing all this stuff that customers really want to do on their own anyways, like get documents, make payments, see their policies, things like that, as well as some other cool features that are in there. So that is what GloveBox is.
Awesome. And before that, you were an agent yourself before building Better Agency, right? So a lot of the things that you ended up building at Better Agency and now you're building GloveBox comes with your experience of dealing with these in the past by yourselves, correct?
Yeah, so if you count my agency life with my insurtech life, I've been in the industry now about 20 years and I've seen almost every role in that. Spent the first half, 2/3 of my career almost on the agency owner side. So owning an independent agency, owning multiple independent agencies. We sold those, and I sold those to go full-time with Better Agency. I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do when I grow up, and it was either being an independent agency owner or go into tech, and I elected to go into tech. So, all my, the better part of 20 years have been spent in this vertical with hands-on experience, sort of in the trenches, doing it, and also just talking to and knowing kind of the struggle and the plight that agencies face on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. Let me bring a headline that if you're in tech, you've been reading a lot lately. Maybe, I don't know, but AI, does that sound something that you read? AI?
AI?
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
I never heard of it,
Never
right?
heard
Yeah,
of it.
it's artificial intelligence. It seems like a new novel technology that seems to revolutionize everything, including insurance distribution, in particular the agents. But out of the joke, what are your thoughts around which pieces of what the agent currently does make sense for AI to automate in the near future, and which it doesn't make sense to automate by AI, although it could?
When I think about AI, I think about two key pillars of AI. To anybody who is familiar with tech or AI, this is elementary, but to a lot of agents, it's not. But it is there's two pillars, really. There's the generative AI. Think about ChatGPT and Midjourney and, things that make things, right? And then there's, sort of that predictive AI or the AI that is used for data analytics. Uncovering gaps, things like that. So in the insurance agency world, there's definitely a need for both. And I had this discussion. Sometimes I go on these random, when I have downtime, I go on these random, and I do it to sort of fish for ideas for myself, if I'm being quite honest. But I'll go to things like Perplexity and I'll just ask it questions. What does it think about something? And actually, one of the questions I asked it today, as I was trying to sort of flesh out some thoughts that I had around something, and just trying to kind of like bring things together around my point of view, is, I was thinking back to the year 2020, and back then, tools like OpenAI as a company existed, but nobody in the retail insurance space knew what it was, used it. It wasn't a thing. And now today, fast forward 5 years, it seems like agencies can't live without it. It's like email or the internet or social media or other things that could have been thought of as fads that stuck and now become critical components of our day-to-day life. I was going to Perplexity, and I just wanted to sort of see what it had thought using its deep research. And I said, I want you to imagine it's the year 2030, 5 years from now, and I want you to basically play this same situation out. What are the up and coming things, the trends that are going to be normal day-to-day life that we look at today and go, that's from Mars? Back 5 years ago, if you would have told people where we'd be today, they would have thought you were nuts. So I wanted to sort of play this exercise out a little bit. And so going back to the question, I think that where agents can start to use AI is what they already know they can use it for today, right? It's generative stuff. Although I would caution agents that use generative AI to create things like email or blog articles or things. It could be great on the surface, but useless as you dig down deep into it. And I say that because my background in marketing, I feel competent enough that I can speak to a generative AI platform and I know what it is I'm looking for. I know how to analyze email copy as an example, which is a tactical use of the platform that agents might have. And I can tell you roughly if I think that this is good copy. It's relevant to my audience. The offering that I'm making is sound and principled, and it's got all the fundamentals that it needs. I know enough about copywriting to know what copy is good, and I know enough about copywriting to look at copy and say that's not good. Maybe good for somebody, but not good for me. And agents who aren't skilled in that particular area will just rely on something 100% because they don't know. They don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear. So that is sort of kind of the pitfalls of using AI. Is if you're not skilled enough or knowledgeable enough in a particular field, you don't know what you don't know, right? So we see this, and this shows itself in every area of everything I've been a part of, whether it be marketing, insurance, or technology. You just don't know what you don't know, and it can lead to a lot of pitfalls. But where I see it being really practical, and you see vendors sort of play in this space, is in the predictive analytics side of AI, and using AI with data to sort of predict the future. Right? Who's going to leave? Who's going to refer somebody? Who's going to have a claim? Who is going to drain my resources from a service standpoint? You sort of can see that. While it's not perfect, nothing is going to be because it doesn't know the future. It can be really good and useful in that area. So I think that is where I think agents, they're leaning too much on the generative AI side, and they're not leaning enough into the analytical predictive AI side of what my data says. And I think there are a few reasons for that. I think a lot of the times agents, what we see is most agents have horrible data. And so analyzing bad data only gives you bad analysis. And so that is like the critical thing that I think agents need to really clean up and figure out is my data structure. What does my data look like? How clean is it? And then using AI to sort of kind of comb the desert, so to speak. And that's what I think, and find water in the desert.
And how are you helping within GloveBox to the agents to get better data, right?
So within our platform, there's little that we're doing as far as cleanup. We have some standard best practices that most tech companies will have when it comes to deduplication of deduping data and so on and so forth. But there's only so much that a tech company can do. It really falls on the agency's shoulders. As an example, we integrate with your management system. So you're with Applied Epic, you have 10,000 customers accounts in your Applied Epic. If 7,500 of those all have the email address none@none.com because you wanted to fill in a field, or their phone number is all 555-1212, there's not a lot that can be done with that. That is horrible. That is the role of the agent to fix. We don't know all of that data, and we're not going to be able to find it. And we're probably not going to go build tools to find it, to be honest with you. That's not what we want to do. So there is a component of this, and this is the danger of AI, and this, as is the danger of most technology, is agents in this particular scenario who aren't disciplined fundamentally to do the right things in order to enable AI or enable any technology, they're not going to have success, and ultimately they're going to blame you for their lack of fundamentals and discipline. So that is kind of like the two-edged sword. Relying on AI as a magic elixir to fix all your problems, when really there's no fat pill. I can weigh 400 pounds. There's not a pill that's going to make me lose. There's not a good pill that's I can take healthily. I could take cocaine and lose and crack and lose the weight, but that's not health. That's not very good on the body. Taking crack. So like the best thing is to actually work out and diet and do the hard thing myself and use things to supplement. And that's how I kind of think about AI with agency operations.
And one question there, because as I interact with agents a lot of the time, and they've been probably hearing that they're going to be replaced by novel technology, now AI, but in the past was the internet, the ability to compare multiple sites, multiple cards, etc., and they still survive. So I always question myself, like saying, hey, they're not disciplined with the data, maybe because they don't know, but maybe because it takes a lot of effort. However, they're still doing fine. Would you say this is like a short-term thing? They're doing fine because the advantage that the ones that already fixed it is yet to be discovered? Or they will be fine and they will eventually be able to retire correctly, and yeah, the agency maybe will close, but they had a fine job dealing without that.
Like all those things, right? So I'm old enough now to have seen the advent of a lot of these things, whether it was social media, AI, in some cases the internet, and direct to consumer. You find all these things, and they believe that these things will change or will replace an agent, and they never do replace an agent. But what they have all done is they have changed an agent. So the agents have adapted, changed, or evolved in some way. And so I don't think, like as an example, AI is going to replace agencies, but it will cause agencies to evolve and change. I made a video yesterday. I don't know when this is being released, but I made a video yesterday on our GloveBox YouTube channel. And a thesis of the video was looking back over the last 10 years of this insurtech boom, Silicon Valley invested well over $15 billion. I think the number was about $15.4 billion in insurtech. And they invested in a lot of companies whose, at the beginning, at the origin and the genesis of their company, mission statement was to replace agents. We're going to get rid of middlemen. We're going to make this easier, direct to consumer, all that stuff. Now, if you look at all those companies today, the ones that survived, they all have agency distribution channels. So Silicon Valley made a $15.4 billion bet to prove what we already know. Agencies aren't going away. Technology can't replace an agency, but technology can enhance an agency. And agents that use AI properly, not lazily, I don't know if that's a word, but not in a lazy fashion, it can enhance what they do. And so if they're willing to change and adopt and adapt. So do I think that agency owners who don't take up these best practices, are they going to be able to retire like they want to? Depending on when they want to retire, probably not. Probably not. But they'll still be around and they'll still be viable, but they will need to change and they will need to adapt.
And maybe tying that, and I think you insist with your marketing background and a lot on what you were saying, like build marketing that is not lazy. In other words, like
Yeah.
do a good copywriting. But other than marketing, and maybe we can focus also in marketing, but what other skills, considering the complementary ability that brings AI to the agents, what other skills do you think the agents should focus in order to be sustainable with this new technology that, as you said, will not replace it, but will enhance it?
I think the biggest gap between successful agencies, and let me define that here in a second, successful agencies and less successful agencies. And we'll define successful agencies as a floor of $3 million in gross revenue. The floor. So think about your 5, your 7, your 10 plus $1 million gross revenue agencies. And they do exist. Lots of them do. Versus those who maybe even are still struggling after a decade to get to $1 million in revenue. One of the key things to identify and what separates those two is a strong sales culture. And this has been top of my mind for the last couple of days now as I see agencies and the ones who have invested in sales leadership, sales fundamentals, sales training, not being transactional, but really being that consultative salesperson that we all think we are and want to be, really investing in that. All the top agencies have done that. They've all done it. I've yet to meet an agency north of $5 million in revenue that doesn't have a strong sales culture, strong sales leadership. And all the ones that are under $1 million in revenue that are struggling, none of them have that. So correlation or causation, I'm not sure, but it is something that is worth that I've noticed. If you were to ask me, like, what things do they need to go invest in to bolt on technology to these certain things, it's fundamentals like sales training. I think marketing training, like how to fill a pipeline and generate a pipeline, is important. Those two things are going to be what allow you to make money and keep money. So I think that's what they need to invest in. I think the other thing too is another key differentiator between these agencies are those who have very strong detailed SOPs, processes in place, SLAs around every department. They have good cross-department alignment. Without getting too jargony here, all the departments are on the same page.
And then injecting technology to make those metrics
And then
better.
using technology to enhance and enable and like scale those things. There's a mindset shift in agency owners that needs to happen. One is there's the first, like if I think about personas, the first agency persona is the agency that expects technology to be the fix, to be the solve, to be the thing that does all of these things. And maybe they have an over reliance on technology, including AI, to do that. The second persona is the agent who says, no, we've already got all that done. Like we already know who our target market is. We already know how to operate internally, and we already know what all the SOPs are. We just need technology to kind of come in and like be the glue on that stuff. And I think that's another key differentiator between the haves and the have-nots.
In all these agencies, and let's talk about the successful ones, the ones that heavily invest into a sales culture, a marketing culture, a process culture, as you defined it, when trying to find their technology partner, and I think you've been as an agency to try to find your technology partner, and then being the technology partner of a lot of agencies, a lot of times they don't know where to start. They don't know how to evaluate. What tips or tricks would you recommend them to start saying, okay, I find this as a good partner versus this is not a good partner for me. It might be a good for others, but not for me. How do you think they should think about technology and partnerships?
So I would bucket this into 4 buckets, and each bucket has its own things. I think the first bucket needs to be strategic fit. When I'm evaluating a technology partner, there needs to be a strategic fit. And here are the questions I ask to determine if this is a strategic fit. How does this platform, company, technology, how does it align with my current workflows and team roles? Change management is a tough thing in any vertical. Really getting ahead of that is important. So does it require changing my whole system? Because if it does, it better be worth it. So strategic fit is a big one. Another question to ask there, a couple tactical questions, is who owns onboarding and training? Is it me or is it you? And then what kind of agencies get the best results from this? Right there, those are the questions I would ask in the strategic bucket. I think the next bucket, the big bucket, is outcomes and ROI. What's the average adoption and usage rates at 30, 60, 90 days? Because if my clients don't use it, it doesn't matter. If my staff doesn't use it, it doesn't matter. How do you measure success? And what should I expect? This is subjective, of course, because you have to have input in this. Any good system or platform that you're evaluating, you play a role in it. It takes two to tango. But you should know how to measure success and what you should expect should you do these things. And then I think one bucket that's really important that we all pretend like we care about, but we don't. It doesn't seem like it, is the risk and reliability bucket. So when I'm evaluating, or when I think agents are evaluating tech, they need to know what happens if the platform goes down or if the company goes out of business. What's the continuity plan? And then really the big one in that bucket is what security protocols are in place to protect my data? We're all in the insurance industry, yet we're not asking enough questions about this. If I'm giving you customer data, are you SOC 2 compliant? Like, what are your protocols for security data and the stuff I'm giving you? My client's personal identifiable information. And I think the last bucket is integration and support. So how does this integrate with my AMS, my CRM, my carrier tools, whatever the case might be? Because manual workflows equal time suck equal team doesn't use it. So the last question is if I get stuck, who do I call? Where do I go for help? So no company is going to answer all of these 100% correct, right? There's no such thing as perfect software. And if you ever found perfect software or a perfect software company, I would suggest you don't buy it because you'll probably mess it up. So it doesn't exist. No one's going to hit all of these. So you need to identify for yourself which of these buckets mean more depending on what it is I'm trying to accomplish. Maybe the risk and reliability is first and front and center, and integration and support's bottom. Or maybe it's reversed. So like evaluating tech, I think you should think about it from those strategic initiatives.
Awesome. And to move topic, and we're getting close to the end, we talked a lot about the internal operations of the agents and how they can get better with technology, particularly with AI. What are the things that you would say that, given this new technology and given these interactions that we're having continuously with conversational AI, you mentioned perplexity, for example, which are the expectations that have shifted from the customer that you think agents should react to quickly, because otherwise we'll start losing traction with these customers?
How do I answer this without sounding like I'm giving a commercial?
Just do it. Just do it.
Okay. So, this is one of the reasons why I like the transition to GloveBox, is because I think this aligned to my point of view. Where insurance agents are missing the mark here in relation to your question is they put too high of an emphasis on their own value and how they define that. And I believe agents are gatekeeping innovation. So if I were to go outside of insurance, and I'm going to weave this in, I'm going to make a point here, so stay with me. If I were to go outside of insurance, then let's use banking as an example, something we all do. We all have a bank. It wasn't that long ago that banks required you to come into their branch to do a transaction. You want to make a deposit? Got to come in. You want to check a balance? Got to come in. Got to come into the branch. And branches were all over. They still are. That's a key point to remember. Branches were all over. And they had 20 people working in them to handle all the people coming in. You need to make a deposit? Got to come to the branch. The banking industry did something pretty, at the time, revolutionary. And they started moving to more digital operation with mobile apps and web portals and things of that nature. And they were directing their customers to go onto these platforms. And I imagine that at the time, there were people in the banking industry who said, we can't do this. This is a mistake. Because if we tell them that they don't need to come to the branch, they don't need to call us for everything, then what good are we? But now, fast forward to the year 2025, everyone, I mean, I don't know, I'll put you on the spot, Martin. Do you have your banking app on your phone?
Absolutely. Yeah, I ever, never
Okay.
go to a branch.
Would you ever consider, Martin, changing banks and going with a bank that doesn't have these things?
No.
If they said, hey, we're old school, we believe in good service, you're going to have to come into our branch every time you want to do something. You're going to have to call us. You have to email us. Would you leave your bank now and go to that bank?
No, please. I hate whenever I just need to do once.
Yeah.
Of course not.
Yeah. Does having technology make you think less of your bank?
The other way around. I'm pretty proud of the
Makes you
bank.
think more about them,
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty
They
proud
have
of
their
my
stuff
bank.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got their stuff together. So we laugh about this, and I'm asking these questions, and we all rhetorically know the answer, right? It's silly now to even think about this. Now let's bring that over to the insurance industry, and the insurance industry, the retail independent side, is at the same crossroads. You have innovation that's wanting to come into the market, and you have people who are saying, oh, we can't do that. If I give my customers the ability to serve their own policies, to get the things that they need done on their own, they're not going to see any value in having me as their agent. They might as well just go direct to the carrier. And it's not true. Everything that we just said about banking is identically true for you. Your customers want these things. They are already doing this in every other aspect of their life, from their banking to their stock portfolios to ordering food. And so you think more about these companies that offer you, that empower you to make these decisions. Why is insurance any different? It's not. So what I think, going back to your original question, the thing that I think agencies are missing out on is believing that good service equates to these things. Making customers call me, making them email me, I email them back. If it's better not be on a Friday at 4:00, though, I'll email you on Monday, right? Facetiously. So what agents need to start to bring in is this more mindset of empowering their customers to take care of the things that they want to take care of anyway. And by doing so, there's this weird paradox. The more freedom I give them, customers, the more they are loyal to me, and the more value that they believe I'm giving them, and the less likely they are to want to leave me to go back to the old way. So it's not hard. Your customers want this, and they all want it. Don't believe the lies you tell yourself about my customers won't adopt. They don't want this. They like coming in. They like calling me and waiting on hold for 5 minutes. They don't. They don't. So one of the things that, that's our core value prop with GloveBox, right? So, but there's also another component of that. Another thing that is where we're kind of shifting our focus or adding to is this idea of what we call the embedded marketplace. So the ability for my customers to not only solve their own problems that they want on demand, but also for me to intelligently surface up new opportunities for missing gaps, right? This is how I position myself as a real consultative advisor in their life, right? You have X, Y, and Z. I'm not just trying to sell you a policy, but we notice that there's some gaps here, and this is a policy that will cover that. And surfacing those things up and allowing my customers to get the insurance on their own or with my guided help. But at least I'm there. I'm turning every service interaction and every interaction into a possible sales outcome with technology. So I don't know if that answers the question fully, but that's, I can probably ramble on for days here. I don't want to do that for the sake of the listeners, but that's what I think insurance agents need to start to wrap their minds around.
Makes a super valid point. And I will link it to my last question, Which brings, I think, to the beginning of the first answer you provided, that you were interacting with perplexity. And is, given that we are sharing a lot of our questions, deep, very tactical, philosophical or not, questions to AI right now, and interacting with Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, DeepSeek, whatever you want. And they have the ability that we can trust them even without looking at the sources. A lot of the times we can have the sources, but most of the time we don't look at them. What's limiting them to eventually, at a specific trigger, them offering us insurance, given that we are already trusting them, not only data, but also the responses? What do you think it's limiting there? And this is also to provide an answer on, okay, what should be the role of the future of the agents, right?
Why don't they integrate with like carriers
With carriers and become, yeah, exactly, a broker themselves.
and be the own retail distribution arm?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, like a direct consumer type model.
Kind of.
Yeah, I'm sure that will exist. I think you'd be foolish to assume that at some point that wouldn't exist. But like, there's one of my favorite quotes. It says, "History is cyclical because human nature is predictable." Right? We can predict history because man's error is somewhat predictable, and so history repeats itself. So, how many times has that happened in the last 20 years? When did Amazon get in the game? When did Google get in the game?
Absolutely.
And they did, and they'll come back at some point, and they will attract a certain customer. They just will, and that's fine. They will get customers. They will create offers. They will do this at some point, whether it's in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know, but I think you should just assume that's going to happen, and life will go on. It'll be okay.
Nick, thanks a lot for the time. It was a very interesting talk. It's always a pleasure to hear you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely. I've been a long time follower, so this is also something that I'm doing for myself. And of course, I hope the listeners appreciated that too. So thanks
Right
a
on,
lot for
man.
this.
Appreciate it.